Yeah. To the complexity.
I guess it's, hang on, is that, what's the right way around to clip it? Is that right? Or is it?
I think so.
Like pointing up.
Yeah. I guess my favourite part of any like branding project and sort of getting to grips with the brief is just questions, like asking so many questions and trying to find like a real angle to pull out that you can work on, and whether that comes from kind of asking them what they stand for as a business or what they stand against as a business, their values, just lots and lots of questions, detailed, trying to unearth just like any small little gem you can find to kind of be your rock essentially for like taking the project on as far as you can. And I think when you get that, and the client is also aligned on it, that's where like the spark happens, and that's where you can really like drive the project forward. And those little like nuggets of information that you're searching for through any kickoff is really like the key piece, and that's where like all the themes for like the rest of the project essentially can develop from. Because you can like pull in your ideas, so you can be like, okay, so this idea I've got for this project aligns with this pillar, or this aligns with this one, and that can just set direction for the whole project really.
Yeah, you're kind of just breaking the client, the business down, aren't you, into those like sections?
Yeah, like key channels.
Yeah, the key channels.
To direct your kind of, your thought process and your inspiration for the project. Like, where's it going to go?
Yeah.
And I think when you kind of present that initial round, it really can like boost the project, gets the client on board, and they can kind of, they get a feel for the vision before you've got there.
Yeah.
And it gets them excited. And I think that's when I get excited as well, because then I want to like pursue it and push on even further.
Yeah. Keep exciting them. Yeah.
So much excitement.
I think when it like resonates with them as well, like you say, oh, I've picked out this part and I see it going this direction, like they might not immediately align with the design part because it's not quite their thing, or they're not as familiar with it, but then when you tie it into a theme or a tone of voice or something that you've pulled out, they can kind of envision it a little bit better, and they go, oh yeah, that sounds really good, and you're kind of like on the same team.
Yeah, and the further you get through the project, the more context you can add to it, and it builds that bigger picture and just helps sort of like smooth along the process. And then that's when you get into the real nitty gritty as well, so it doesn't become about the overarching theme of the entire project. It's like, I like this aspect, or I want to tweak this aspect, and that's when they really start getting involved, and it becomes like their project.
Yeah, you give them that ownership at that point, sort of thing, don't you? They feel like they've got that input as well. I think that the type of questions you ask as well are so like crucial, and they seem like on paper they seem like so simple, don't they?
Yeah.
like it's like, and probably most people would assume that they probably know them already, but when you put them all when you put the client or the team, whoever you're doing the workshop with, in the room, and you ask them these questions, like it's crazy how many different like points of view or perspectives there are for each of those questions. And that's about, getting that group of people to align as well, and to just, like kind of spitball their differences or...
Exactly, and that's the sort of thing that you need an external person or persons to come in and do.
Yeah.
So that it is like a mediated session, if you like, so there isn't a trump card to be played where the person with the most weight always wins.
Yeah.
It is more democratic in that sense, and it's kind of, that's where that aligns. Okay, so I think one of like the biggest things for me about when we do a workshop is like trying to hit the ground running and get build that relationship initially, get it off, like set off on the right foot essentially. And we've kind of like honed our process over the years and the different exercises we put in, but one of them we always kick off with to try and build like a bit of a rapport with the client, and it really like isn't about brand at all. It's just about them and their business, and like trying to understand what it is they do and why they're still doing it. Some businesses, for example, they might have had employees for kind of 10, 15 years. Why have you worked for a business for that long? Other than money.
Yeah.
There must be some cool stuff going on, or something you really enjoyed to be in that business. And then for newcomers, like, why did you join?
What was the attraction?
What was the attraction? And it's often like some of those, that can be like within the first 10, 15 minutes, but that's where some of the best information is. because it's not something that they really think about why they're good at whatever that is. It's just something that's innate to the business, if you like.
Yeah.
And I think that really sets the tone and it gets the energy going for the workshop. You know, it can warm people up, and also it makes people feel more comfortable, you know, about making suggestions that they might not have been so up for before. If you're doing a more sort of comprehensive exercise where they have to talk about their clients or their customers, or even, you know, their own business and their values, and they don't want to say the wrong thing, it kind of opens the door. Exactly, yeah.
It's like so pure, isn't it? Like the answers that you get in that round, in that initial kind of, warm-up round, like the answers are so pure. It's just like, this is why I'm here. This is why I've been here for this long.
I love the anecdotes that people give as well when you ask like success stories or favourite moments from like long-standing employees or new ones. You get these really nice little memories and anecdotes that kind of give the whole project, before you've even gotten to design, like meaning. So then everything you do after that has meaning and feeling, and it's kind of pieced together by everybody involved. I think that's really nice.
Yeah, and it helps when people are like, they are themselves still, because obviously you get like the, you know, it's about X client or we did X thing as a business, but some people will be like, oh, my favourite thing was when Matt got his guitar out and sang to us, ran the fire at like such and such location, you know, like some like team building thing, but it stays with them.
I think it's a really good exercise for us as well, as the agency, because it helps us to like, immerse within their world and to get involved with them as a brand as well, and to really start to understand them as people as well. I mean, you know, it is a lot of it's to do with personality, isn't it?
Yeah, because there's only so much research you can do from the outside.
That's
you can look
it.
at their website, you can read documentation, YouTube channel if they've got one, you know, little social.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. You can only ever get so much.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing is, you do that stuff, and then you go and meet them, and it's like, oh my god, these are. Yeah, this is like totally opposite, you know, in a good way, of course. But like, it's it just goes to show that like, you got to meet, you've got to get involved, you got to ask the right questions, and I like to feel part of the business. Like, and for me, like doing that is how I really understand and like get underneath them as well. So like when we go through like some of the exercises in the branding workshop, I'll in my head I'll just be like answering the questions myself as if I was sort of working, you know, with that or you know, as an employee almost. You know, what do I think they're going to say? Or
because by the end you can almost second guess what certain people are going to come out with. So you're kind of leading them, and like by that point you've built a pretty good relationship with them, and like you're kind of like, you know, the relationship you've got is reached a good level, and you're just sort of like the notes are already sort of like happening, you know. You're like, you're not second guessing them, but it's like a good place to be, like sort of like halfway through towards the tail end where you've built that rapport, and you're sort of like on their wavelength.
Exactly, that's it. On their wavelength. Riding their wave. Yeah, so talking about the brand workshop then, or the discovery sesh, what's your top like branding exercise that you do with a client?
I actually have two, but one of them is where we get the guys to like present everything that their brand stands against, essentially. So as a brand, you know, what are you fighting? What are your adversaries? Like what's the stuff that you aren't? And I think it's something that you touch on as well. Like people know what they don't like, what they don't want to be, rather than necessarily what they always do. So if you flip it on its head, you know, rather than saying, you know, what do you do? What do you not want to do? What do you stand against? People really get into it. And it can spark quite a lot of passion. Certain people hate's probably a strong word, but I would say
there's aspects they don't want to be associated with.
They don't want to be associated with something. And you know, when those Post-its hit the wall,
I guess they hit hard.
They go off.
What about you, Maddie? What do you reckon? What's your favourite?
Yeah, I like that. I like kind of like encouraging them to sort of take a bit of a step back out of the business and imagine either they're a customer or someone looking at it from an outside perspective. I think it kind of takes the seriousness out of it, because the temptation is just to talk business, like this is how we do this, how we approach customers, and kind of picturing it from this sort of like outsider looking in perspective. I think is quite nice. It gets them out of their heads a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the empathy idea like builds a good profile, doesn't it? Like a good persona of who we're dealing with as a customer, and also like it can like I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but like empathize you, I guess, with the brand a bit more as well. You know, like what do you need to touch on, who the person is you're dealing with, like on more of a personal level, like where are they, what are they doing when they're looking, you know, where do they interact with your brand, for how long, what time of day, you know, what are they doing in their daily life, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess you become the customer as well, don't you? We take on like all these different guises throughout these workshops. You know, first we're like an employee, then we're a customer. But again, that's how you get that, you know, sense of well-roundedness, and how that is going to help you inform, like, you know, an identity or a brand, basically. I think one of my favorites, definitely like the values, because I actually really love it when, you know, when they're writing down sort of their, you know, what they feel their values are on the post-its. They put them on the wall, and I actually love seeing the grouping of them come together. I like seeing like when people are actually saying very similar things, because I think you can just see that they're aligning in front of your eyes, sort of thing, you know. And it's really I think that's for me like when it really starts kind of informing like a direction that they're going to go.
Especially with a bigger group.
Yeah.
When you've got people from different aspects of a business, or like different sectors, like wherever they're doing, so like marketing or finance or, you know, operations, like someone out in the field, if they've got like a sort of more physical role, when those values do align, even from that, like it's nice because you've got a good core like aspect already running through the business. It's then just about how you pull that to the surface.
Yeah.
They're sharing a lot already, but might not all have the voice within that one conversation. So you kind of give them all a bit of a voice by giving them all the sticky notes, and they all get up on the wall.
Yeah.
Everyone
stand up.
Yeah, everyone gets to kind of like say what they feel, rather than just like one person speaking for everyone kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Going back to what you said, really, isn't it about sort of the loudest, you know, the loudest person kind of, they get their way, you know. It's giving everyone that opportunity to.
Yeah, and it becomes a good like team building session for them as a client as well, because like everyone's had a chance to voice whatever they want to voice, and you know, they feel heard. And I've definitely tapped away and you know, collated as much notes as I can, so someone's definitely heard them.
Yeah. Well, you're just sat there pretending. Sorry, can you just say that one again?
I just want one more.
For my completely blank document.
I mean, we've spoken a lot about people aligning, but one of my favourites is where people disagree, and that's got to be on the sort of personality scale. And it like really polarizes different parts of the business or different team members from a client, because, you know, one, what do the scales really mean?
Yeah.
And the disagreement in that is where the value of that exercise comes from, not necessarily where they end up, but the conversation around it.
Yeah.
And it can be really interesting to hear, you know, someone more junior argue with someone more senior because they've been given
All
the
the
opportunity.
voices.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a safe space.
Just getting them to like think differently as well about the questions. I think we've done a couple where certain questions like strike fear because people view it in one way, like am I serious or playful? Oh, well, what's playful? Like that seems young and immature. But then when you bring kind of examples into it of brands that are doing it, even in their sector, they kind of think, oh, actually we could branch beyond being super serious, like need to think about that question a bit differently. But yeah, when they kind of disagree within, because they're looking at it from different aspects, is quite interesting. And then you pick it apart, and actually they do sort of align sometimes. They've just been viewing it differently.
That's it, because I guess personality traits are quite subjective, really. What one person's like playful, you know, could be, you know, I mean, you've got like, there's a big spectrum within the playful, or wide scope within the spectrum of playful. So
yeah, they see the word on the screen, right? And if their mind goes to kind of like childlike branding.
Kiddie.
Yeah. Yellow, blue and green.
Okay, so sometimes like during a workshop we might pull out a customer experience map, and then what we're doing essentially is channeling the different phases of a customer's journey or their experience with the product, which is usually like around initial search, like research and discovery, then when they land on the site or the product if it's an app, when they're thinking about making a purchase, and then afterwards, you know, retention. So like, do they advocate for the brand? And then in each of these channels, there's a number of steps they have to go through. So it could be, well, not steps, but, you know, just things they're feeling. So it's like, you know, are they excited about using the product? Are they anxious? You know, whereabouts do they actually interact with the product? Who do they tell about it? Where have they heard about it from? all these different aspects, the machine they use. Is it a mobile? Is it a laptop? Is it a desktop? Are they at work? And that can really, when you fill out the map, it can give you a real clear picture of, where they are, how they're feeling, and what we need to do to get them to buy or to convert in a way that at the moment they're not doing. And then onwards, it's providing a lot of opportunity to think, how do we re-engage with that person afterwards? And then after that, you've got your filled in map, this sort of document that kind of informs all these opportunities. That's when we go into a user journey, when we're looking at, the different conditional steps that the user goes through, and then does that actually highlight anything else? I think you've done one recently for an e-commerce shop, and that was great.
Yeah, it was quite a complex user journey and the different offerings that they had and the different routes that they could take. But I think doing that initial discovery kind of helped highlight any pain points or confusion points or points where they might even abandon, there's too many options and they're not sure which way to go. And then when you start putting that into a user journey and actual flows, it does kind of highlight opportunities as well. Coming from a certain direction can then link you back to looking at something else or convert you to something else. Or even if you don't go all the way through to the end of the process, like purchasing or converting, there's still the opportunity for discovery and establishing trust. So yeah, they kind of have lots of different avenues come out of that.
Probably important to highlight as well that these aren't set in stone.
Yeah,
and
they're all changeable.
Do change. When you get to wires, you've got this diagram of how the most optimum user journey looks. Then when it actually comes to it,
you start thinking of actually that might
these little steps come in when the client can actually visualize what that step looks like. It's I thought this was going to happen instead.
Yeah.
So obviously there's an amount of data that needs to be pulled in. Does that make sense? Is this the right thing to do? But they're just, a couple of tools in our arsenal to get to kind of confirm, is this the right thing we need to do before we even get into design?
Definitely just sounded like tools in your ass.
When you said arsenal, I was like,
great.
Did you pick up
tools in your arsenal.
tools in our
Can you just add a little bit of caption text there that says arsenal? Don't come at us.
Please, John.
The same thing with
Or you can just add a beep on top when Joey says that.